Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. I want to talk about the second round of the NBA playoffs 2020. And so far, we know finally who's going to be playing in the Western Conference. We're waiting on 2 Game 7s for the LA teams that know who they're playing, and we have that information. But first, I want to get into the Eastern Conference. A couple of series that have already been going on now. I didn't give my prediction on them, so I'm just going to toss in right now and say so. First of all, I want to start with Miami, Milwaukee. Right now, Miami's up 2-0. And really, it comes down to Miami just being able to be a little more sound offensively than Milwaukee. I don't know who it was that pointed this out, but they said that Milwaukee has the worst half-court offense in the game. And in watching very little Milwaukee, I don't really know what they got going on personally. So I can only listen to the analysts and tell you guys what they're saying and tell you what I'm seeing, and that's exactly what I saw in Game 2. Milwaukee doesn't really have much going on in their half court at all. Like, it's just guys standing around looking at each other. The ball may pass around a little bit and they'll force a shot at some point, but there's no movement, there's no screen setting in some of those plays that I watched. I think Giannis sees himself as a Milwaukee lifer. So even though the rumblings about him being a free agent are around, I don't actually believe he's leaving. Nothing will surprise me. Don't get me wrong. I've been surprised before in this type of thing. So I can definitely see him deciding to leave overnight or something like that. I've seen guys do it, but I just don't think so. Everything we've seen on Giannis, him displaying the character that he has, playing this game, the way that Milwaukee has developed him. Been there his whole career. He's been comfortable there. He's grown up there. He's had children there, a child there now. I don't think that he's thinking about leaving. I think he sees that as his organization, rightfully so. I think he sees them as a team that's put together enough for him to not only become who he's become, but also be a top leading Eastern Conference team each year. They got good coaching. They got some things to figure out, but they have good coaching. The roster's okay. It's maneuverable. You can maneuver around what they have. They're not locked jammed in some situations. Some of those contracts they've had are starting to age a little bit. They may be a little easier to move. So Milwaukee has a good history with a good rapport with Giannis. Better rapport than a lot of players in these situations. And I think he stays. But I'll tell you this. They have got to improve that roster. I do not think they beat Miami in this series. I don't think they'll get swept, but I think they're out of here in like 6. And that a lot is obviously determined by what happens tonight, Game 3. So we'll see. I have no reason to believe the Bucks are gonna get swept, but I think some of the problems that they have down there are gonna continue. And Miami has enough weapons in different areas, especially from the perimeter. That creates a lot of problems for a team like Milwaukee. Even though they have enough bigs themselves, they don't have the shooting that Miami has. And you're asking Giannis to break through a wall of defense, and the other guys are not really scoring or creating anything for themselves. They miss Malcolm Brogdon quite a bit. I know they're upset that they couldn't keep him. I would have tried to remove some salary to assure if I could, but he signed rather right away for a lot of money. So I understand why they let him go, but they miss him quite a bit. So yeah, that series is I'll say Miami in 6. All right, on to the other side of the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics and Toronto Raptors. Similar situation. And what I'm seeing in that series is a little different because excuse me, you guys. The Celtics just seem to be a little bit too much for Toronto right now. You know, a lot of people say Toronto looks just as good without Kawhi Leonard, but they miss Kawhi Leonard in this series. This is the series where if they had Kawhi, they win. Since they don't have Kawhi, they're probably not getting out of it. They're down 2-0. the games were fairly close, especially game 2. It could very well be a tie series right now. I don't think Toronto's done, but I am not picking them to win this series at this point. It's really close. OG Anunoby's playing amazing. I just want to just point out the fact that he's been called out to play more in this series. And in game 2, he looked phenomenal. Scoring the ball and playing defense, he just looked really, really good out there. I need to see more from Pascal Siakam. A lot of the decisions that he was making out there just look slow to me. Slow movements, slow gathers, putting the ball on the ground, turning it over. Just a very bad game for Pascal's standards. And I think a lot of that has to do with the players that they're throwing at him. Boston has nice, long wing forward defenders. Jason Tatum is a super duper star on both sides of the floor. Jaylen Brown has turned into an all-star caliber player on both sides of the floor. Marcus Smart is making his impact felt. In game 2, he was really, really, really good. Could not miss. The guy was on fire. If he plays like that, Boston's nearly unbeatable by anybody in the Eastern Conference. And you got guys like Daniel Tice, who plays big. That guy Williams starting to get some minutes. He plays big. So they're starting to show signs of having size, and that was my concern with Boston. If they could just get enough competence out of Tice and Williams and get Jason Tatum to play big. Enes Kanter, I haven't seen a whole lot of him, but I'd imagine they're throwing him out there as well. If they can get those bigs to play really, really good on the defensive end and rebound the ball, their guards and their forwards should be able to bring it home for them. Now, I don't think we've seen the best of Toronto, but I also think Toronto's a bit banged up. As we'll remember, Kyle Lowry's returning from injury, if I'm not mistaken. Not returning from injury, but playing through injury. A couple of their guys are just not 100%. And they need to get more from the other guys in this series. Guys that they're used to coming through. They're going to need those guys. The Norman Powells and Serge Ibaka's and who else? There's a few other guys. Chris Boucher. They're going to need those guys to play better, and they can. Fred VanVleet is a star, and he's in for a big payday. I expect him to play better. They've done a pretty good job on him. Kemba Walker's done a pretty good job on him despite being hobbled himself. They're doing enough with Marcus Smart to make life very, very difficult for their guards. And that's what I'm seeing out there. It's just a situation where even though Toronto's playing really, really good, they have a lot of depth. Valanciunas, all those guys are available. Not Valanciunas, excuse me, Gasol. They're available, but they're just not quite there when it comes down to stretch. They need someone to help them close games. That's what I see is missing. They can keep up toe-to-toe all game long, but when it comes down to it, Boston has 3 guys that they trust down the stretch. Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, and of course Jason Tatum. Toronto, as I said, Pascal Siakam, as good as he is, and he's very good, he seems to be, he's slumping right now in a lot of ways, not just shooting the ball. He's going to have to be 30-plus point Pascal Siakam instead of 17, 20-point Pascal Siakam. That's not going to get it done against a guy like Jason Tatum. That's not going to do it, especially in the playoffs. Jason Tatum now has a reputation for elevating his game in the playoffs. Whoever he was during the regular season, you just throw it up about 3 notches. But he's going to be a superstar when it matters most. And that's what I expect to see again from him in Game 3. We're going to have to find a way to become more versatile. I think that's what is also lacking from Toronto. As many effective weapons as they have, they're kind of lacking in the athleticism department a little bit. And it sounds strange because they do have athletic players, but they're lacking. I explained this. Gasol, this stage in his career, not really wiggly. Setting screens, turning around, a lot of contact. He can still stretch the floor. He doesn't really shoot like that anymore, but he can still do it. But he's not a guy you can really count on to run the floor and give you a whole lot of side-to-side wiggle movement, right? As I mentioned with Pascal Siakam, as great as I like him, and I like him a lot, doesn't really wiggle, doesn't have the ball handling, doesn't have the. It just seems to be a little slow out there to me. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but he just doesn't make quick decisions as he needs to, or at least he didn't in that game. Let me preface by saying he didn't in that game. And we need that from him in this series if Toronto's going to win. And I say we because I absolutely loathe the Celtics. So anybody the Celtics is going against, I'm going for. The exception of the Clippers, for which I will not watch. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Toronto's going to need to move on and try to see if they can get some players that can really move around a little bit more. Moving down their roster, small forward position, you're looking at Boucher. You're looking at Norman Powell, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. None of these guys are quick, herky-jerky left to right, take you off the dribble, fly. We still don't have the athleticism yet. Norman Powell can fly a little bit, but to me it seems like he's a role player who's really maximizing his opportunities and overachieving to the max with this roster. And I really like what he's done. They developed him. He looks great. But I would be lying if I said they couldn't use a Brandon Ingram or somebody like or a Jaylen Brown to upgrade at the 3 spot. They need one. They miss Kawhi. Their 2-guard spot, of course, you can swap Norman Powell. You can put Van Fleet in there if you want to. You can put Kyle Lowry there if you want to. And I feel like I'm probably missing a player somewhere in their depth chart. But the point I'm trying to make about the 2-guard spot is the same I tried to make about the other positions. Nothing athletic, nothing wiggly, nothing really that can cut through the defense and slash to the basket really fast. They don't have that player. And of course, their point guard position, their strongest position in my opinion, with Van Fleet, Kyle Lowry, those guys are short, not very athletic, both kind of built the same, both kind of do the same stuff. Fantastic players, but they're less like Westbrook and they're more like CP3 in terms of body. I guess is what I'm trying to say to you guys. They're staying on the ground. They're not high fly acts. They're not jumping. They're not breaking down with a bunch of deck moves and all that. They're using their low to the ground body size. Both of them have a little girth on their body size, and they can use that to kind of create contact. They have wet jumpers, both of them. Pretty solid handles, both of them. So they're able to really be effective. They're both stars, but nobody's a slasher. Who on this team can put the ball on the floor and dunk with a couple strides besides Pascal? Like, who can do it? They're lacking it. Boucher and Pascal are the only 2 guys that come to mind, and neither one of them are quite that way. Boston has like 3 guys like that, and they're all their best guys. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, you don't need no more wiggle. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They need those type of players. They need the Ingrams, the Jaylen Browns, the Kawhi Leonards, Paul George. That's what Toronto's missing. Somebody like that. And because they have nobody like that, they have to rely on their schemes working. It's going to have to be, Nick Nurse is going to have to be the star. And the problem with being the star against Boston is no matter how great of a coach you are, they got somebody on the other side that's just as good as you, because that's how good Brad Stevens is. So it's like, you're not going to really be able to out-coach them. You don't have the physicality to match what they can bring, the athleticism to match what they can bring. And their stars are just shining brighter than yours at this point. And that's what you're looking at. That's exactly what you're looking at. So, I don't have any reason to think that a whole lot is going to change. I think Toronto can get back in this series, but I don't see them winning 4 out of the next 6. So I think Boston's going to win this series in 6. So, yeah, that's my Eastern Conference take. I feel like I should probably do another video for my Western Conference take. So that's what I'm going to do. But that's the Eastern Conference, you guys. And I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to go any further into who I think is going to win the next series until we have confirmation. But that's what I'm going to say for the East. We'll give you something else for the West. Thanks, you guys. BDF.